Hello friends, welcome back. This video is part of full stack web development series, and in this video I'm going to cover the first part, which is the database design of our online course enrollment application. In the previous video I gave you an intro of the application and what kind of concepts, tech stacks are going to be covered, and I hope you were excited. And this video is all about the database design. You don't need to know anything. I'm going to start from the scratch. So come, let's get started. So friends, before we dive in, this is the GitHub link where you will find every single project that I'm demonstrating. So feel free to go through and browse whichever project you like. For this specific video, I will post the exact link of the repository in the video description itself. If you would like to follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and GitHub, these are the links that you can click and follow me. I will be more than happy to collaborate with you. So don't forget to follow me. Now let's dive into the video. So what do we need as part of this video? We are going to use Azure SQL Server. Azure SQL Server. SQL Server is basically structured query language. They are also called as RDBMS. So RDBMS is nothing but relational database management system. The data are related to one another. That's why they're called RDBMS. So our data is organized. So we are going to use the SQL Server as our database. So as part of this video, the only software that you need is SQL Server Management Studio, SSMS, and you should also install SQL Server Engine, database engine. Okay, so go Google it, say SQL Server downloads, you will end up in this place. Once you end up in this place, as of this recording, SQL Server 2022 developer full featured version is free. So download it, install it. You can do either this one, or to just quickly start with it, do this. Do a download of an Express edition, which I have also installed in my local, and just follow the next step, and you will also go and so it's going to download. See, once you finish this, at the end of the installation, it will also ask you can it install SSMS. SSMS is like the Visual Studio Management Studio IDE. This is the place where you connect to the database and do further steps. So do install these two. If you have already installed, well and good, we're going to start our database design. So what we are going to do is, we will assume two things. One is, whoever is watching this video, they have no idea about SQL Server. I haven't touched anything in SQL Server. Fine. The whole purpose of the full stack development, web development courses, the whole purpose of our full stack web development courses, anyone who comes in should be able to learn everything that we do in this program, like in this course. That's my intention. So I'm going to do some basics touch on the SQL Server, and then I will jump onto the design of a database. Okay. Now, like I said, database do have tables. In RDBMS, tables are located in the database. All right. So tables are nothing but rows and columns. What you see here is one of the table, and it has rows and columns. Columns describe what it is, and rows are the data for a particular, for a set of data, there will be a row, right? So rows and columns are all called tables. Now, each column stores some data, and that some data is of some type, right? So if you look at this, by looking at this, I can see the first column is called course ID. They're all numbers, so it should be an integer column. Second thing looks like all text, so it should be a varchar, right? So when we talk about int, varchar, and all of those things, you remember when you're programming in C# or something, you have a lot of integers called bool, int, string, right? Those kind of decimals. They're all called data types. A type of data is what? Data type. Right? So we denote, like we represent a data in a particular type. So in this case, we have some integer, some text, which is varchar in SQL, and then we have something like decimal. We have some dates where it shows about the date and time. So it's all about that, right? So we know some basics of what is database, what it has a table, right? So the data are organized in a table in a rows and columns format. Okay, now let's jump on to some basic SQL. Okay, so let's before I dig into the database design, just let's for understanding, right? In order for you to create a table, you will use some script called create table. Whatever you see blue color, they are called the SQL type, like they're all inbuilt one. That's why it's showing us blue color. So create table, syntax is create table, table name, open the bracket, close the bracket, inside this parenthesis whatever you have is all called column definition. Okay, so in our case we have user ID column, we have display name column, first name, last name, some email ID, and another column, right? So we have a table, we have 6 columns. So in course table we have more than 6 columns. Right now we know columns, we know what it is saved, like user ID is basically a number, display name is again a name that you want it to be called as a user, and first name, last name, email ID, all of those things, right? So now next comes is the data type. How you have to define is create table, table name, the column name, space, type. This represents what type of data you store. So in this case it's an integer type, we're going to store integer. I'll come to this identity. Similarly, if you go through all of these things, it all says n_var_char. Alright, this is the type where a text like alphanumerics are stored. And if you specify what is the maximum characters can be stored here, that's where you say n_var_char of 100, meaning I cannot save any letters, any number of characters more than 100. That's what it says. This is 50. This is good to have these kind of denotion so that we restrict the data. We don't allow the column to have more than what it is supposed to have, because it is going to allocate some space behind the scene in the database. So we don't want to do that and mess up, right? That's why we have these things. So column name followed by the data type. And the data type can be different things. It is integer, n_var_char, all of those things. We specify what it is. And if you see 128, why 128? If you wonder, my intention is to store a GUID, GUID, a GUID inside this column. The GUID is always 128. It cannot be more than 128. It cannot be less than 128. That's why I specified as 128. Next comes the next part after this. The type comes the constraints. We are saying not null. You should have something when you insert into a record. If record is a combination of a row with many columns, we are saying not null means it cannot have a null value. I'm saying none of these can have a null value. Everything should have some value. Great. Okay, somebody doesn't give the display name. Fine. That's when something comes called constraint. Constraint is replace if you do not have a value. We are saying create a constraint called default. When I say df means default. That's the the standards that you follow. Default constraint. So we say constraint df underscore table name underscore column name. That brings up a unique constraint name. Okay, and then say default, add a name. Add whatever you wanted to be a default. So I wanted to have guest as default. So for good, so we have done everything here. Let's go through this identity. Identity means unique, and when we specify identity of 1,1, which means starting from 1 with the difference of 1, it will start adding the numbers automatically. So 1,1 means this column will have 1 starting with 1. Difference is 1. So 1, the next number is like addition of 1. 1 plus 1, 2. I can keep adding 1, 1, 1. It keeps continue. What if 1, 10? Fine. The first one will be 1, and 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like that. So based on what you give, but the good design is to have this 1,1. So we defined it. So for all good, Karthik, what else is there in SQL that for me to understand? I had to have no idea about SQL. Great. The other two concepts that you wanted to know as part of this design is primary key and foreign key. Primary key means a key which is unique to a table. Unique means it cannot have null. That's one of the interview questions, right? Primary key cannot have a null value. There are other keys called foreign keys, unique keys. Unique key can have null value. Primary key cannot have a null value. I'll repeat one more time. a primary key cannot have null value, but every single value on a given column is unique. Unique key means it can be unique and it can also have null. So null also considered as a unique value. We're not going to have any unique key here. We need to have a primary key, so we defined it. There are two ways of defining primary key. After this, primary key is a constraint, so we can say primary key. That's also possible. I wanted to give you a different flavor, right? The different flavor is define at the end, say constraint, and then followed by the constraint name. We are going to create a primary key, so pk underscore user table, like the table name underscore the column name, and then say primary key, and then you specify what is the primary key. Now we know about what is table, how a table is created. Table will have columns, column will have its type, that's called data type, and then it can also have some constraints, and that is what we learned about a creating of a table. Now we know at least basics of table, right? We know something. As I go further, I'll talk about foreign key, but now let's consider our database design. Now, how do you design a database? For that, you need to first understand what is your application doing. Okay, in our case, the application is Online Course Enrollment, which means we have a website which is going to have some users coming in. So user information is there. User might have some roles, which means some role information should be saved somewhere. And then user and role are related, like your user can have some role. So there is another table called user role that comes into play. What else? We have some course listed, so some tables called course where all the courses are listed, and then some enrollment information where the enrollments are listed. Payment is involved in the application, so payment tables are going to come, and all of those things, right? So that's how you start thinking of how to design, right? So basically what you're trying to do is you're going to organize your information about your application into different tables. Okay, that is the goal. Now I'm going to start with one by one. Let's delete this. Right click. I'm going to first show you the design, and then I'll go and show you the SQL for that. Go to design. I mean, you may not be doing this as I do, but once I give you the script, you can go and do this exact thing, right? For this database, I already have created all the tables. So let's go and understand one by one. Okay. All I'm going to do is I'm going to first talk about users. So let's pick up 3 tables and show you why those 3 tables are required. So I'm going to cancel that, expand this, create user profile, roles. Great. So now these 3. Let's understand this. Okay. So I'm going to clean up all of these things. Now let's understand the 3 tables. The table which we called as like user profile, all what we are going to do is save some user information. We are going to use Azure AD B2C. So user information is actually there in Azure AD, right, in our tenant. But we wanted to have some linkage, and we wanted to know who that user is. Anyone who comes in who wanted to be register, like who wanted to view the videos, they have to be enrolled with some course, even if it is free course, right? And then some instructor who's coming also has to be enrolled. So everybody who wants to utilize this has to be a registered user. Simple. Which means we have to save some user information. So this table is all what it is doing is it is going to have a unique ID, which is identity column. That's always called as the table name's ID, table name. So user profile ID, you can also call it as user profile ID, and then bunch of other properties. We already saw that, right? Now let's talk about roles. A user or anyone who inside this application have to have some roles. Based on their roles, the privileges on the application will differ. I as an instructor will have a different privilege. Admin who's administrating this application will have a different privilege, and you as a student will have different privileges. So there is something called roles. I need to first save some information about what roles are available. So I have a role table which has an identity column of role ID and a role name. That's it. This table will just hold only that information. And now the user profile, which has the user information and the roles, needs to have some linkage. Where do you put the link? You need to link these two, right? Meaning, when I am registered, my information is here. I'm an instructor. There are 3 roles: instructor, admin, and student. I need to be assigned with the instructor role. For that, I need to have another table to store that information. Great. That table is called user role. It's a meaningful name which we say it's the user's role. So user role is here. All what I'm going to do is I need to create a column which is identity column unique to the table. So that's why this is coming as user role ID, table name followed by ID. Next to information here is called role ID and user ID. Okay. Role ID is something that we are referencing this table. User ID is something that we reference in this table. Okay. Sounds interesting. Now I'm going to do something like this. This role ID belongs here. This user ID is nothing but here. If there is a user, he might have a role. And the roles should be present in this table. It's called inner join. So let's say I have this display name. I don't want these things. I just want to find the user with what role. So I can pick up like this also. I'm going to say okay, and let's see what happens. Great. There are 3 users, and this user has a role ID 1 and role name is admin. This user has role ID 2, who's instructor. This user is a student. That's how you put a piece of information into different tables, and like you organize information. Okay. Now let's go quickly take a vote. Now let's go and take a look at the code. That will be more important for us, because this concept, if you understand, the next set of concepts you will understand. So we learned about a table creation constraint and for like a primary key and another thing, right? So let's talk about the other 2 tables. Role tables, which is I always will have the table name followed by the ID and its identity column to make the unique key of this table. Good. Role name, we define just admin, instructor, and student. So 50 is enough. It should not be null. So for good, this is just a constraint of a primary key for this table. So for good. Here comes the next thing that you wanted to understand. We have a table called user role. Again, table name followed by ID, and that's an identity column. So for good, role ID and user ID. These 2 are referencing other 2 tables, but we are saving it in a separate table. When you do like that, you can have to add a constraint called foreign key. Foreign key means a primary key in one table can be another table's foreign key. So foreign key in a table, in other words, foreign key in a table is nothing but a primary key in some other table. So we can call this as parent-child table. This is a child table, this is a parent table, and this is a parent table. Okay. So user ID is coming from a different table, role ID is coming from a different table. But if you closely look user ID and role ID, they are nothing but the primary key of these 2 tables. You see this? This is the primary key of this table, this is the primary key of this table. So always primary key can only be a foreign key. But can I define like that and leave it? Will that become a foreign key? No, absolutely not. We need to have a constraint. So we know how to create a primary constraint. Now the next thing is again constraint, because it's foreign key, naming convention is fk underscore table name underscore column name. Foreign key, and then we are saying who's foreign key here? User ID here. User ID here is a foreign key, and we are saying, hey, refer this one in another table called user profile table. And where do you want me to refer this in the table? Again, there is a user ID in this table. This is referencing that. So we are saying foreign key of what column followed by references the table user profile, and in that go and refer this column, right? This is the primary key, like the primary key of this table. Like that, if you define it, this becomes a foreign key. So we know some basics of all of these SQLs, and so the rest of the tables is going to be the same. I will quickly show how it is designed, but all what you have to know is about a table creation, primary key, foreign key, constraints, why we have to have tables like that to store the information. That is our overall goal. Okay, so I'm going to quickly show you the rest of the tables and explain it. The rest of the the SQL script is going to be same. And before I forget, at the end, for every single table I have added some dummy data, like just to start with our application, right? You can go through it. It's basically, if you want to insert into a table, you use insert into table name, provide the column names, and then values of this is the syntax. Basically, as long as you know the syntax, you're well and good. So I will give you more syntax and other details in the description, but I hope you understand this. So let's take a look at the rest of the tables. Alright, so based on the current understanding, now you know how you can relate a table. Now let's take a look at the rest of the entities for this application. On my screen, you can see we have the initial role, role, and user profile, which are linked to each other because user will have a role should have a separate table, and user profile is the user's information store, right? Now we are referring to this application all about the courses and enrollment. So let's assume I am listing a list of courses. So I need a course table, and you can see the course table is here. The course table will have its own course ID, unique ID, a title, a description, a price, course type. I'll come here for a second. Course type, seat available, duration, all of these things, right? So in this, there are few columns. They are all primary, like they're all foreign keys, which means they are primary key of some other table. Let's see what are those. We have another table called course category. Course category means a course that can be a programming, data science, design. They're all called categorized to courses, right? So those information will be in this table. So when a course is being published by created by an instructor, the course belongs to one of those category. It has to belong to one of the category. So that's why this course category table's primary column, which is category ID, is a foreign key in this column, and you can see this here. Now, what else? A course is published by an instructor. An instructor can be again a user, which is registered in the application, which means we have an instructor table separately, which will have more than the basic profile information. For example, in this table, I have first name, last name. Maybe first name, last name here and here is going to be duplicate. That's okay. We have some biographic information, which is like having a max care of var care of max, which means I can write my own biography if I'm an instructor. Again, this is having a user ID as the foreign key, which is coming from this primary key table, right? So any user that has to go through this user profile, but if we have to enhance, we can add such table where this table is meant only. So basically, if I'm an instructor, I am a registered user in this table. At the same time, I have more information in this instructor table. Why am I talking about this? Because the instructor ID is a foreign key in this column, in this table. A course can be done by an instructor, so we need to know who's that instructor and his all information, right? So if you go all the way through like this, you will see instructor's role could be an instructor, right? Or an instructor could be an admin as well. That's a whole different story, but basically they are tied up with some role. Now what else? We have another 4 tables. Now there are other things, like if there is a course, people will come and say, criticize it. Oh, good. Oh, not good. Okay. All of those things, they are all going under something called review. So we have a review table that has somebody reviewing it, which is nothing but the user. So that's why we have user ID, and we are referring to some course where the review belongs to. So that's why it's a course ID. Course ID, again a primary column here. User ID comes from the user table. I just didn't put this linkage so that it looks nice, but basically there is a link like this. There's a join from here to here. When you design it from this design table, like the SQL design, it will show like that. But basically, remember, user ID is a foreign key. The primary key is coming from here. Only a registered user can do a review. That's what all about. Okay, we can have extra checks that the user is supposed to be enrolled. Only then he can review it, right? If I have not, gone through the course, I cannot review it. It's not fair to review it. I have no idea about the course, so the user should not review it. So those kind of things we'll talk about when API comes. How do you validate such things? Those kind of things we'll implement. Don't worry for now. Other than that, there's a rating, comments, and one was that reviewed, right? So that's it, this table. And then let's finish these two tables before we come to the session table. Or let's go to the session table. Session details are like, if I say Angular full course, Angular front-end development, it's not just one video. Maybe that course has multiple videos combinedly called one course. Where do you save those information? There's the session details. For a given course, there are like 10 sessions happening. So all the 10 items, 10 rows will be inserted here. They're linked to a course ID. That's why this table is separate. Okay. And if I upload 10 different videos, you'll have 10 different URLs, video orders also. Like, what is the order to which the user has to study? Can I study in any order? May not. You can study, but you may not understand, right? So that's why there's an order of the session. There are two more tables, last, enrollment and payment. Enrollment is something to do with who's enrolling, the user, right? So enrollment table will hold information of a user who's enrolling to a particular course ID. So enrollment ID, course ID coming from here, user ID coming from user profile, when that was enrolled, whether the payment is completed or not. We haven't really gone through all set of payment tables. Don't worry, we will progress that when we come to the payment. But for now, we just say it is either completed, pending, or successful, whatever it is, right? And then there is some payment information. It talks about how much they paid, blah blah, all of those things. So to start with our online course enrollment application, we just have 1, 2, 3, 7, 10 entities, 10 table. We're going to start with our application with the 10 wonderful tables. And this is how you should design a database. And I hope you enjoyed this video and you did learn something new. So you have learned a basics of SQL, how tables are organized, what are primary keys, what are foreign keys, what are constraints, how you need to write scripts to write tables, how you can insert some data, how you can use the query design view, and you know how to design a database itself, right? Great. So stay tuned. I will definitely start publishing one by one. The next video will be soon released. So watch. Go practice this. All of these things that you're seeing will be uploaded in the GitHub repository by the time you watch this video. I'll give you every single details in the video's description. Don't forget to check it out and practice. Everybody can count. If you like this video, do subscribe to my channel. Pass on this information to your friends and whoever you know. Spread the word. It means a lot to me. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more tech tutorials. And don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notified when we post new videos. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Happy coding!